Hello everyone and welcome to my overview of the PGR version 5. In this time we're going to be covering mostly Melee. So in this spreadsheet, which I will link in the description, I have my personal predictions and what I still pretty much believe. There are some things that are switched around now based on that, but I like to keep it as true as possible. So this is what I had before the summer PR. This is the actual summer PR, and this has numbers that compare to mine, and it has numbers that compare to the winter PR as well. In this, I also have the winter 2017 PR, and all of the tournaments that I could find. I couldn't get all of them, but so I started this document about late June, or this spreadsheet. Hold on, I'll just show you the revision history in it. Maybe early July. Yeah, like really early July. No, it still goes back. Yeah, really early July. And so I tried to take as many tournaments as I could from there, ones that I had been seeing. But I definitely, not all of these are the same. So, I'm sure there were more notable tournaments than these that I had here, and I tried to go through and add as many as possible, but it's still not going to be completely up to date. I had a couple of stats here. So I had 11 players that were completely right. I had 6 players that were just not at all on the list. I had 77 players that placed higher than I thought they would, and I had 71 that placed lower than I thought they would, and that's not including the ones that I didn't think. So I think I mostly overrated players in this PR, but I do feel like it wasn't too bad on. It was pretty bad on the spectrum, but I'd say that both were fairly even in the end. So yeah, they started rolling these out, I think, late-ish July, and so then they started it out with 50 through 40, which started with Over Triforce, Meds, Professor Pro, Santiago, Moki, Michael, Gatsu, Slox, Toussaint, and Kalamazoo. So there were quite a few of these. I knew that the bottom 10 of my list would probably be in variation because there weren't any, it wasn't completely set in stone. There was some stuff where it was really up in the air. People that I think were really over. I don't think there was anyone who was too overrated, honestly, in this section. And I don't really think that there was anybody who was too underrated. The one number that really sticks out to me is Down 18 by Michael. But after I saw this, I went back and I looked at his performances. Even though he did place 9th at Smash and Splash and did have some other notable tournament victories and had been doing fairly well enough to place on the PR, I don't think he was as high as the 27th where I had him as. I do think that he will probably go up over this latter half of the year, but for now I think he sits pretty solidly at 45th. I might have had him up a little bit higher. I might have switched around him and Toussaint, but that would just be me personally. Another thing. So then from there, that was about what I thought would happen, and that's about what I had. I had Chudat on there, so I'll just kind of go over the players who were not on there. I had Chudat on there. Chudat has had a pretty bad year. Save as Entitled is Chudat top 50 video. You should really go watch that to see why. And he hasn't really been doing anything too much since. He's taken a couple of games off of ice, and or a couple of sets off of ice, and a couple of sets off of over Triforce. But other than that, like, he hasn't really been doing too well this year. I'm recording this Saturday, so it's going on as Evo is going on, and he, I mean, I can pull it up real quick, but he's been doing, like, performing about as expected, like, not too well. Yeah, so he beat Heartstrings, he beat Slox, and then lost to Hungry Box, and then I think he won his pool. Yeah, beating Hungry Box Gravy, but not Hungry Box Gravy, Hitbox Gravy, but there's not too many notable wins for him. Heartstrings isn't nice, but he lost to Mike Hayes. I feel like overall, I mean, like, he didn't do absolutely terrible this tournament. Mike Hayes was his only loss. That was a little bit questionable because his other one was Hungry Box. But I still feel like he has room to grow. And I feel like that's definitely going to come in for Shine, SmashCon, and Air. And then I had Kage, a little bit overrated, which I kind of saw coming. Rocky and Abate and Rick are the three that I'm really still kind of like wondering why they weren't on. So if we go to like their SSB wiki profile, I mean, rankings don't just speak for themselves. You have to look behind the rankings, but these all had like pretty good players in attendance. His standout performance for being good was Full Bloom 4. This is for Rick. But he did get 13th at Aegis and 9th at Smashville. So it may have been he didn't qualify. It may have been he just wasn't good enough. But I do feel like he probably should have made it. And then we had a Bait. And a Bait, 7th at Smashville, 4th at Aegis, 7th at Fight Pit, 33rd at Full Bloom, 25th at Genesis, 17th at Smash Valley. Like, he did end up doing fairly well this year, and Rocky's always a pretty solid pick. I do believe Stengo would be on there, but that's kind of another one that I'm like, okay, I can kind of see him not being on there. Next up, we have 40 through 31. I was really surprised to see Junebug on there, but I was really happy to see him on there. I feel like he is a player who is like improving and is up on the rise. I feel like Maryland, Virginia has a lot of very good players. So you'll see Lod and Zane, and then Rishi is around here as well with Junebug. And so that's going to be a really exciting region to see how it progresses, almost becoming like a new SoCal almost of its own. Captain Faceroll, I expected him to be around there. I was really surprised to see Bladewise. I hadn't really looked at his performances, and I still haven't, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. But he was kind of a player that flew under my radar while I was looking at this and trying to decide some of the stuff. 49th at Genesis, 33rd at Full Bloom, 17th at Flatiron, 25th at Smash and Splash, and 17th at Bigger Balk. 5th at Runback as well. So, I mean, like, he's still producing pretty good performances. So that's going to be interesting to kind of see. I did see some of his performance stuff. I don't think he did too well at Evo. yeah, didn't make top 48. Can check like the standings as well, I guess. Yeah, lost to Mike Hayes and Levingy. Um, and Levingy was kind of on a rise there. Did place 49th, but I feel like that could have been a much better showing out of Bladewise. Mike Hayes, he's been performing fairly good, higher than I thought he was. He's gone down since the winter, but I feel like he can bring that back possibly and bring it back up. Rishi, I feel like he's had a pretty good year. He's been doing fairly well. Again, I'm just gonna look at his tournament placings. Yeah, 17th at Smash and Splash, 17th at Gommel, 7th at Flatiron, 9th at Pound Underground. Like, he's been doing pretty good this year. Ice is always a pretty good one. I believe he did fairly well at Smash and Splash. Ginger, I feel like has kind of been on the rise. I feel like I maybe overrated him just a little bit. But I feel like so I had him at about 24th, and I feel like that's where he could be sitting if he keeps up what he's doing until like the end of the year. So like he got into Smash Summit, which is probably why I rated him so high, but he's had nothing below a 33rd place performance, and those are like his two like worst performances, and everything else has been like really good. Like 25th at Genesis, 5th at Full Bloom, or 13th at Full Bloom, making it into Smash Summit. Like, I think Ginger is really gonna be a player to look out for. Bananas, an Icy's player from Dallas Fort Worth. I think he really, I think he started to make a name for himself at DreamHack Austin, and then he really brought it out for Optic Arena. I believe like beating None, and like made it to 4th place. I think he maybe even beat Absent Page, or I think his 2 losses were like Hungry Box and some like maybe Absent Page was a loss as well. But Bananas has had a really good year, and I'm excited to see where he can go with it. IBDW, he, I was in one of Save His Untitled streams the other day, and he was talking about how good of a year IBDW has had, and I could not really agree more. So I know he placed really well pretty well at Smash and Splash. Again, nothing below a 33rd place performance. Hasn't really been to anything too notable. I mean, there is some stuff, but it hasn't been absolutely grinding it out. But he has attended some of the smaller, bigger stuff. So like Smash Valley, Omega, Pound Underground. So I'm really excited to see what he can do, and really excited for the rest of his year. And then Cobalt went off at Evo, at least for Saturday. I'll have to pull it up, but yeah, he beat Amsa, which I was really surprised about. And then lost to Zane, beat Axe. And so Amsa and Axe were both eliminated by Cobalt. And so that's really good to add to his record, only losing to Pew Pew U and Zane, 2 very solid players. So I'm really excited to see what he can do with the rest of his year. Next up, I'm going to try to speed it up a little bit, but we had 21 to 30, which had Captain Smuckers. I didn't really think he had that good of a year, but I guess I just didn't really realize him. Triff has had a really good year so far. Just looking at his some of his placings, 4th at Valhalla and 2nd at Omega are like his two notable ones I think that were on his like card. And then first at Phoenix Blue, and he just seems to be doing really good so far. I really wish he could attend more events in the U.S., and so that would be really exciting to see. Get more U.S. competition under his belt. I believe he took fourth at Valhalla to like Leffen and Armada, and I'll pull it up. Leffen Armada and Overdrive Force, beating out Android, Professor Pro, some really good European players. Cyrox, I expected to be about here. I really do not think Luluna has had that good of a year. And this is so I wanted to kind of talk about this in general a little bit. I felt like there were some things I agreed with, some things I disagreed with, but this was kind of what sparked me to mainly make the video. If you look at Luluna's SSB wiki card, and I'll leave the Smash.gg, the two ones I've used, Save as Entitled's video, and SSB wiki down in the description. But I mean, like, sure, he had a good year. He had a good start at Genesis 5. And then EGLX, he probably should have done a little bit better there. I'm always thinking about this as like okay, if I were to place them right here, I have to be looking at their performances like the people above and below them. So, then it's like 17th and then 25th. He did do fairly well at Nudes Oakland, but I feel like he could have done, like, he probably, looking at that tournament, I mean, it wasn't completely stacked. I mean, sure, you had some good players, but he lost to SFAT and Rocky wasn't even on here. And I mean, like, for a 27th ranked player, I mean, that just kind of, like, turns me away from it. The 49th placing at CEO was really bad for me. But I mean, maybe. We'll see if he does drop later on, or for the latter half of the year, or if he does stay there. I'm going to be really surprised to see that as well. Something I'm really looking forward to. And then you have Army, and Army has been off. I was looking at who would possibly be in for Smash Summit 6, and I saw Army, and I'm like, I didn't know who he was, and now he seems to be doing, like, really well. He took a set over Axe at Esports Arizona, I believe it was, or Esports Arizona. Placed 9th at CEO. Did fairly well at Smash Sundays 64, which was a really stacked tournament. A little bit turned off by the 97th at Genesis, but that was just kind of the start of his year. And then getting into 9th at Even Bigger Balk, 13th at the Run Back, 4th at Low Tier City 6. And I'm really excited to see what he can do with the rest of his year. And I feel like he's got a pretty good shot to jump up into upper half of top 20, or upper half of the 21 to 30 range. Shroomed, I expected him to be around here. I thought he might be a little bit lower. He hasn't had too great of a year so far. I believe he can bring it back, but I just really was iffy on Shroomed, and I feel like the drop kind of sucked for him. I feel like he can bring it back, but I feel like he did need to kind of get knocked down a little bit. KGH has had a pretty good year so far. I know he had a pretty good performance at Smash and Splash, but also tournaments like Genesis, he got 33rd, and Smash and Splash, he got 33rd, and those were his worst performances all year. Winning Combo Breaker, which was a really stacked tournament. S2J, Swedish Delight, Absent Page, 13th at Get on My Level, 9th at CEO. Like, he's had a pretty good year so far, and I'm really excited to see what he can do with the back half of it. Ryan Ford had a pretty good year. He's done fairly good so far. Hold on. I don't know if he can keep it up, but we'll just see if he does or not. And then we have Absent Page. Absent Page is Midwest Fox from Minnesota. He's been doing really good so far this year. Really excited to see where he can go. Then we have Lod. Lod has been doing amazing this year. Pretty consistently making top 8 at events that are about the size of CEO. He won Even Bigger Belk, which had S2J and SFAT and Hugs, I believe, and a couple of other pretty notable names. In the top half, we have SFAT, Crush, S2J, Lucky, Hugs, Swedish, Pew Pew, Westballs, None, and Duck. None and Duck should have been higher up. Westballs should have been further down. Pew Pew's about where I thought he'd be. Swedish Delight's about where I thought he'd be. Hugs probably should have been down more. Lucky is about where I thought he'd be. Same with S2J and Crush. That's basically what I got for you. Duck and None have had pretty good years. None should probably be up here in top 15, in my opinion. And I believe Duck has had a pretty good year so far too. He's just been really consistent. Like, he's placed 9th at like every tournament so far. Hold on, let me pull up his page. But like, he's been really good so far this year. Okay. Yeah. When you search Duck, it shows up with crouching. Nice. But yeah, his worst placing is 13th at Genesis 5. And everything else, he's gotten 9th, 5th, 7th. Like, some of those are really big events like Smash and Splash. Some of them are smaller events like Combo Breaker. He got 5th. Get on My Level, 9th. But I mean, like, he's still been really consistent. None has just been amazing. He's dropped a couple of sets to some players ranked lower than him, but other than that, he's taken 2 sets off of Lucky now, and so I feel like that really helped skyrocket him up. And I feel like, other than, like, I think his Optic Arena performance, he's just been really consistent this year. Westballs, again, while you're on Saves Entitled's channel, watch Has Westballs Gotten Worse? He made a joke about it after winning Smash Sundays and then went right on back to not being as good. I saw something about it where it was like, if he takes it really seriously in practices, he wins. Like, he wins and gets the results that he should have. But most of the time he just doesn't do that. And so I feel like he should be around the 19-20 range. Other than that, everyone else is pretty consistent. I maybe would have liked to see Axe over Zane, but I could see that. Zane has had a really good year so far. Axe has just had some problems, I think. I know in the podcast quite a bit, if you'd hear me talking about it, you'd hear me talking about some tournaments. You might hear the Axe couldn't make Smash and Splash due to family stuff, and Evo didn't look too great for him, losing to Cobalt and Nintendo. But yeah, not terrible, but I think he can really bring it back for the second half of the year if he can put his Evo performance behind him, and Zane's been doing really good. AMSA, I was really happy to see AMSA at 8th. That's about where I placed him. Wizrobe, is everybody else above him, has just had extremely great years. and Saz too. Just not quite as great as them, but I believe that he can do it. He seems to have almost like an Evo curse because um, he placed like 33rd again, and he's gotten like, I think the highest he's placed at an Evo was like 17th. Um, but I believe he's staying for at least SmashCon, maybe Shine. And I really just hope to see him at more competitions, and because Amsa is probably one of my favorite players personally. Um, Wizrobe has just had a great year, taking 2 sets off of Hungrybox, making top 8 really consistently. Um, most tournaments look like a Florida local because there's Wizrobe, Plup, Mewtwo King, and Hungrybox. Like, he's getting up there now. I'm really excited to see that. Mango, he's had a little bit of a shaky year. Let's hope he can bring home the 3-vo. For this comes out after Evo, so you can prove me wrong if I'm wrong, and I told you so if I'm right. um, but he's had a pretty good year. I feel like he's had some ups and downs, and I really hope he can kind of get that worked out. But it seems like he's done fairly well so far during Evo. Swedish Delight, SFAT, Rocky, um, and I feel like he can probably bring it back. Next up is Mewtwo King. He had a Summit 6 win. He's just been pretty consistent overall. I think he got like 9th at Genesis, which kind of knocked him down a little bit, and there was some other tournament placings here or there that were that weren't too great for him. But I feel like he and Leffen are pretty close, and Mewtwo King could probably pull ahead. He did place 13th at Evo, so that's a little bit of a concern. But we'll see what happens in the latter half of the year. Leffen has been doing really good, taking multiple sets off of Armada, only losing to a couple of top players, and I'm really excited to see how he does. Armada, 3-1 with Hungrybox right now. Lost his, so now he lost a set to Swedish, but before didn't lose to anyone outside of the top 6. And I mean, he was really consistent with that. He went 1-1 with Plop, 3-1 with Hungrybox, a little bit behind on Leffen, about even. I think it might have been 1-2 with Mewtwo King, and I think he had the edge on Mango. So it's really nice to see Armada here. I think this is the first time in a while he's not top 2, but I guess we'll just see how his performances play out in the back half of the year. Maybe he can make a sick losers run in Evo. Plup has just had a really good year, taking Genesis 5. Hold on, I'm just gonna pull up his placings. He's only ever really consistently lost to Hungrybox, and he still has taken quite a few sets off of him. So yeah, the lowest placing he has is 5th at Smash Summit, and that's like it. Everything else are like 2nd and 3rd placings. I do not know what CFL SmackDown is. I'll have to look into this. I did not know what this is. Huh. You learn something new every day. But Plop has just had a really good year. But Hungrybox did end up number 1. He's been really dominant this year, and I wasn't too surprised to see it. People were trying to argue that maybe Hungrybox isn't number 1 because he didn't take either of the 2 super majors in Smash and Splash and Genesis 5, but he's beat all the other, he's pretty consistently beat all the other people. If it was coming to tournament placings, maybe Hungrybox wouldn't have taken number 1. He might have taken number 2, but I mean, he has the better wins to back it up than Pup. Like, he has very few losses this year. Um, so yeah, with that, I'll go ahead and end this video here. Um, yeah, this was a bit of a longer one. Check out my Twitter in the description. I'm going to try to upload some random kind of videos, so something like this on Mondays now. And then on Thursdays, I will do tournament recaps and tournament previews. So yeah, with that, I'm going to go ahead and go. So, peace.